Joining us now here on In the Circle on D1 Softball for the first time. She was a three-time All-American at JMU, the first All-American in JMU softball history. Really set the standard at JMU, and of course has been pitching professionally ever since. Has pitched in the Japanese League, has pitched out here in the States. In fact, has just gotten back from Japan as we record this, playing this year with the New York Rise. Has pitched on the U.S. national team. She's done it just about it all. And I speak of Jailyn Ford joining us here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about it. You just got back recently from playing in Japan. You're now playing this summer with the New York Rise. Just how did all of that come about with you joining the Rise?
Um, well, I'm just still continuing to try to play softball, and the team I was on before kind of um folded a little bit, and so I was looking for a new team. Got in touch with a former teammate at the time, Kayla Wadle, who is now my teammate with the Rise. She put me in contact with Jeff up here in New York, and yeah, I signed last spring, and there's no looking back. He treats us well. It's been a great experience. We're playing competitive softball. It's everything you could ask for from a professional experience. So just still trying to play competitive anywhere I can, and luckily I ended up in New York.
Yeah, we talked on that Monday where you played the Orlando Monarchs up here at UCF's campus, and I was really impressed with the chemistry you all had already this summer. Did you sense that from the being around this group with some youngsters, some rookies like Courtney Day, but some veterans like yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's what Jeff does really well with developing the team and finding players. Is that he's not just finding good athletes; he's finding good people, and I think that's part of his actual job too, outside of the Rise. But he's just really good about finding the sense of like having good people to join a team, and I think that helps with the chemistry and the camaraderie and just wanting to play together as a team. And we do a lot of events too outside of softball that help us get to know one another because, like you said, we do have a young team and a lot of new faces, but having the right people and having the right people buy in has helped a huge amount in just like our performance on the field too. So.
Now you've been doing this now for a while, where you pitch in Japan, you come and pitch in the States, and then eventually go back to Japan and pitch in Japan. How do you do that? How do you keep yourself fresh? That's pitching almost yearly round, basically. How take us through that for those that may not be aware of your calendar and how you keep yourself fresh and sharp and not get yourself tired.
Yeah, it's tough and it's taken a lot of kind of trial and error for me. I think I really try to take the priority and focus in my off season, which is from December through mid-February. So I take a little bit of time off there, but I also hit the weight room hard and make sure my body's in like really good and a strong shape to last 9 months straight. So really focus on that aspect of it first, and then honestly, for me, I'm a gamer. I love playing games. So the more reps I can get between March and November, I think the better I end up being. So while it is kind of tiring at the same time, I think that's what also keeps me in shape. If I were just to play in Japan or just play in the summer in the US, then I think some of my performances might be hindered a little bit. But I think having just all of those reps and practicing day in and day out has helped me keep that consistency throughout the years.
How long did it take you to master that routine?
Oh, well, honestly, I think I'm still mastering it. I think it's something that's kind of changes with age. I've developed a good routine, but also my body's aging at the same time. So, what I was doing 4 or 5 years ago, I can't necessarily do now. So it's still, I'm just tweaking things day in and day out, but it took me probably 2 or 3 years to really figure out what my body needed specifically, especially post college. Right? We're given programs, we're given bullpens and stuff in college, so it's kind of you're told what to do. But then in the professional world, it's a little bit more up to you. So finding out what my body needed and how I perform best took a little trial and error, but um, I like that part of it. I like figuring out what I need and how I can best perform. And I think that's kind of what the professional world is. You're either going to put in the work and find a way, or you're not. So yeah, but going back to it, like it took me a couple years, and I'm still figuring it out. But for the most part, I've gotten that routine down, and it's paid off for me so far. So,
What are a couple things you now know as a pitcher that you wish you would have known maybe 6, 7 years ago?
ooh, um, how important like location and a changeup is. Um, and I got away with it a lot, I think, in college and high school and before that. And I think I'm more of a deceptive, spinny pitcher, but at the same time, if I were able to adapt and um, really strengthen those aspects of my game, I think I could have been even better. But again, that's part of the professional realm is figuring out ways to still compete day in and day out. Once all these people have all the film and all the data on me, I've been around long enough to people know what I throw. So how am I gonna, get better, 1% better to be able to still compete and still do well? So yeah, just location and mixing speeds. And I think that's something that's often overlooked in the pitching world.
Now, obviously, playing with the Rise, you're playing in New York. You're not playing too far away, ironically, from Hofstra, which was your rivals going back to that big JMU Hofstra rivalry in college. What has it been like to be in that region, in that area there, back in that kind of you're very somewhat familiar with from your college days?
Well, I remember before I even signed with the Rise and I saw that they were playing at Hofstra, I was like, like that. I feel bad for them. Like I remember taking ground balls off of a concrete sidewalk just to prepare for the field up here, and just like the competitiveness and the grit, and we were just always rivals. Even talking with the head coach this year, Michaela Tranzu, who's a Hofstra alum, we remember playing each other and just how much of a good rivalry we had. So it's kind of bittersweet in a way. It's cool to be back here. It's different to not be playing for JMU and not be playing against Hofstra and have that aspect of it, and to create new memories of this place, which is nice. But there's still a little part of me that doesn't like the blue and yellow, that doesn't like the Hofstra name. It feels a little wrong to be a JMU alum and be staying on the Hofstra campus, but the community has been great. They've been very welcoming and very supportive of us. So we couldn't ask to be in a better spot, to be honest. I mean, we have everything we need right here. So it's been great.
It's been awesome. When you come from Japan to play in the States and you're facing different hitters, how quickly is that? Does your mind is able to flip the switch that you go from playing against certain players in Japan to playing certain players in the States? Is that a quick turnaround? Is that a quick fix? What's that mindset like?
It takes probably a game or two for me,
Okay.
and it's nice to be able to. I think when I came back this time, I had about one game to adjust. So, I'm charting. I'm keeping data on the other team's hitters and seeing what they swing at, whether they're aggressive. We play a much bigger game here in the States, so we don't have to worry too much about the small game, the hit and runs, the runners in motion. So it kind of simplifies it in a sense. For me as a pitcher and as a game plan. But um, yeah, it's nice probably for a game or two just to sit out and be able to watch and adjust back to how the game is played here in the States, and then make my game plan based off of that, because it is a little bit different, and the way you attack batters is different. But again, it's softball too, so you can't make it too difficult or more difficult than it needs to be.
You're still at the highest peak of your levels there. Watching you pitch on Monday, there you were shutting things down. Do you feel you're just entering your prime? How do you feel overall? To me from the outside, it looks like you could pitch another 5, 7 years if you wanted to. I'm not saying it's up to you what you want to do, but do you feel that way?
I do actually, which in a way is kind of surprising. I thought that I kind of hit a peak, and then you know from there kind of hit a downhill slide. But I think I've started to figure out what I need, how I perform, how I can compete, and just doing all the little things to stay competitive. And I honestly, I think this year has been the best I've felt in several years. And a lot of it is probably from reps, again, going back to I'm getting a lot more innings in Japan than I have in the past, and a lot more game experience. So yeah, I feel good, and I hope I can continue to play as long as my body stays healthy. I'm doing all the things recovery wise to stay healthy and be able to pitch, longer innings, longer games, long term, to be 31 years old. So I know it takes a toll on your body, but really just trying to do all the little things right and hopefully I can compete for another 5 or 6 years or until my body gives out.
You've been playing in Japan since I want to say 2017. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Describe for those what's it like playing in Japan.
It's fun. It's intense. It's the games, all the game atmosphere is completely different. There's music and bands being played constantly throughout the game. It's very professional. There's a lot of support from the community. And kind of mentioning earlier, there it's a lot of small ball, a lot of runners in motion. We do a lot of hit and runs, a lot of squeezes, which makes it a little interesting and a little fun. Just you're kind of always scrapping for 1 or 2 runs. So defense is impeccable. It's a very much a quantity over quality type of culture there, which has been interesting to adjust to and learn based off of in the States where we might take 10 quality reps. They're hitting buckets on buckets, you know, all day long, 8 hour, 9 hour practices all day. So it's a little bit different in that aspect, but it's been really cool to adjust and learn and realize that, there's not one way to play softball. There's multiple different ways. There's a lot of ways to get it done. So it's been a big learning experience. Every year is different. So it's been really fun.
So being pitching in Japan, has that expanded your horizons from a pitching standpoint? Is that one of the big influences Japan has had on your career?
Yes, absolutely. And going back to the location thing and mixing speeds, a lot of the girls there only throw either a fastball or a changeup coming into the professional league. And they get success just because they're able to hit a spot on a dime, and having that as a foundation for pitching, now you can develop other pitches based off of those mechanics pretty much. So you already have the mechanics down. Now you can incorporate a curveball or a rise ball, um, a drop ball, and have the same success. But they're able to hit corners and spots like no one's business, and it's really opened my eyes to make me realize, I can take my game to a higher level. It's not just about spinning the ball and moving it through the zone. Well, now I can spin the ball and place it here. I can work more planes or angles into batters. So yeah, it's been really, really fun to watch and play and adjust and learn from that aspect as a pitcher and as a player.
Did you learn that on your own? Did players take you under your wing when you got in Japan? Was it coaches? How does that all work from that standpoint? Learning, a new league in a different country.
Honestly, a lot of it came from myself and just watching and observing. We They don't have a lot of like pitching coaches, and a lot of if we do, they don't really work with the American pitchers as much, just because you know, they think that we know everything, and I know we don't, but um, they just kind of leave us be. But I'm always looking to learn. I'm always a student of the game, so I'm trying to figure out, why or how is this pitcher, it's only throwing a fastball, how are they being so successful, how are they getting outs, is it more ground ball outs, are they keeping it low in the zone, stuff like that, just little things that I might have not known or overlooked throughout my college and early professional career, that I've been able to um, add to my kind of resume or how I pitch so that I can again continue to compete throughout the years. But yeah, just trying to observe and learn any way I can. I think it's can help long term, not only for my career but also helping coach and teach other players, younger players, or even players on our team currently, just how you can take little things into your own career.
How much do you? Is there a couple things that Japan does you think you would suggest maybe in the states should do for pro softball?
Um, well, besides the whole atmosphere aspect of it, like in-game stuff or speeding up the game, kind of what they're doing with college ball. I really do enjoy the whole more like quantity over quality. There's definitely a good balance. I'm not saying go overboard, but sometimes I do think the more reps, the better. So, sometimes our 2 hour practices we don't get enough in. So either going in on your own, doing a little bit of extra stuff, or just having the time to set out for 100 reps or just BP, anything that's going to like help us become better over a longer period of time. Because even though it's a short season, it's like a 7-week season here with Rise. Like we still have to be in our best shape coming in, or
Yeah.
else it's kind of a wasted period of time. So really, just learning from that aspect.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Monica Abbott on this show, and she mentioned in Japan the atmosphere there. I talked to her right around the time of the Olympics,
Oh
as a
yeah,
matter of fact, when she was going to the Olympics for, and that was obviously before the pandemic hit. But talk about the atmosphere and just the passion they have for softball in the
yes,
professional levels. Whereas here you see it in the collegiate level, and
yes.
we're still trying to figure that out to pass that over to the professional league. Speak of that environment. I mean, she told me that she used to play in professional leagues that met games where we like 20,000 people.
Oh,
It's
easily.
easily okay. So you verify this.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And probably around the Olympics, it had a little bit more. Uh, you know, it lit a fire under a lot of
Sure.
their. They were hosting. They're very supportive of sports in general, so they just love any way that they can support any sort of team, whether it's golf, softball, basketball, whatever it is. But I think right around the Olympics helped with the numbers on that. We still probably get. I think we probably average 1 to 2,000 a game, which is phenomenal. I mean, you look at some of our um, fans here, even with the Rise. I think we have some of the best fans in community base, and we're getting probably 5 to 800,
Yeah.
which is great, phenomenal. But how do we get to that level? And they just make the games fun. They have chants throughout the whole time that the fans can participate in, and um, it's just fast paced, and yeah, it's a really great atmosphere, and they take a lot of pride in being fans of either the company or the teams that we're playing for. So well, I'm hoping once the LA Olympics kind of come back around in the next couple years that it starts to pick up a little bit more speed and a little bit more fans start to come back out again, because I know there was that lull in between
Yeah.
between with softball not in the Olympics, people kind of get a little uninterested. But yeah, there are definitely some things we can learn and take from the Japanese league and bring it into the states to get a little bit more of a fan base consistently throughout the whole league.
What's your thoughts? I mean, Olympics. You mentioned 2028 softball will be back in it. It's
Yeah.
the LA Olympics. It will be played in Oklahoma City,
Yep.
the same stadium, obviously Devon Park, where the World Series or College World Series is played. And then, a lot of people also mentioned the fact, hey, 2032, Brisbane, Australia, they love their softball over there. So there's a good chance here that we get softball could be in the Olympics and back-to-back Olympics here in 28 and 32. Your thoughts on that and the impact on that overall?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge that that one, we're hosting in such a prime time for softball being hot in the U.S. right now. Um, and being in Devon Park and OKC, I think it's phenomenal for the sport. I think it's going to gain a lot of traction overall over throughout the entire world. And I think it's phenomenal just to have it back in the Olympics so that people can compete for a gold medal. Whether it's in LA or whether it's in Brisbane. Giving all this talent that the U.S. has and giving them an opportunity to actually play for their country and to represent their country on the biggest stage. I know that's a lot of girls' dreams, or a lot of women's dreams too. And it was a shame that it wasn't in the last Olympics, but I think with the trajectory that it's got right now, I think it's a great timing for it to be back in the U.S., back in Devon Park, and in the softball capital of the world. It's very exciting, and I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to cheer on the U.S., and it'll be fun. It'll be a good series.
You were part of the U.S. national team in 22.
Yes,
I believe you were part of the World Games in Birmingham, if I remember.
yes, sir.
Won the gold, if I
Yes, sir.
recall.
Yes.
What do you remember from that experience?
Oh, just putting on the uniform and going out there and cheering on the team and being involved in some of the games of just it just felt like every inning, every pitch mattered, and it's not stress, it's not pressure, but it's like you're competing for something that it feels like it means something, you know. And so it was just nice to have that competitiveness back, and getting to play Japan in the gold medal match and having such a tight game and losing to them in the Olympics in Tokyo. I know it left a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. So to get that back in Birmingham, and then hopefully taking it into the Olympics in LA and OKC. Um, yeah, it's super exciting, and it was a really great experience. And I learned a lot too as a player, just getting to be around high level athletes, high level pitchers, and high level coaches too that I sometimes don't get to interact with, especially in Japan. Just taking full advantage of that.
That was a historic team that you were a part of in retrospect now, looking back in that 22. That turned out to be Monica Abbott's last international event with the U.S. national team, which is kind of unique. I don't know if anybody knew that at the time. You probably didn't even know that at the time.
No,
You were part of that, and then you had the youngsters. I think Montana Fouts, I want to say, was on that, right? I mean,
yes,
you could tell me if I'm missing, I'm correct in some of that, but it was kind of a mixture because some of the Olympians was on that team, but some of them weren't. So you had some youth in there.
right.
I believe Heather Tarr was the head coach with Cindy Ball Malone was
Yep.
handling the pitching staff. You had Tim Walton and Tony Baldwin.
Yep. Yeah, I was phenomenal coaching staff. Got along great with all of them. They were very supportive, and then just having that good mix of veteran leadership and knowledge, and then having the young ones that are, most likely going to carry the tradition of Team USA going forward into LA and into Brisbane. Um, and being able to have that good mix of, this is what we expect from an Olympic or a gold medal pitcher. Like, this is the level you need to be at. This is where you're at. How are we all going to compete and win together, and get that gold back? So it was super, super cool. And I think it was just a great mix of people, great. I don't know. It was just it was a really good staff, and I enjoyed that summer. And I got to be kind of get close with Monica Abbott too, which I've always looked up to. Lefty. I don't throw anything like her, but I mean, she was just an icon at the time, especially
Sure.
when I was in college, and to have just that close connection with her and be able to pick her brain a little bit and see how she throws and operates was just as a student of the game, I loved it, and I learned a lot from that.
What was it like being around her during that? Being around her, seeing her in the bullpen.
Oh, a little bit of like a fan moment in a way. Like I'm trying, just because I grew up watching her and idolizing her, and then now I'm throwing a bullpen beside her and getting to talk to her and watch her and see her operate. It's just kind of a full circle moment too, and a very proud moment too to have known how much work that I put in to get to that point. That we're kind of competing for the same thing. We're on the same team. We've gotten to that same point. I'm not an Olympian by any means, and I don't have any of the, stats that she has, but I've made it to Team USA, and to be able to throw in the bullpen beside one of your idols is a really cool full circle moment that I never thought I would get to. So it was
It's
very,
pretty good.
very proud moment. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably have photos now with her. You could probably have on a plaque and a frame there with part of that team, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and we still keep in contact too, and her and her husband and her new baby too. So, yeah, it was super cool just to form that bond with her.
That's awesome. Sounds like you kind of fulfilled some bucket lists there, multiple bucket lists with that in that
Oh,
year.
oh, absolutely, yeah, that was one of the best summers for sure in that aspect. It was tough going back and forth between all the different seasons and places, but no, totally fulfilled.
What keeps you going and doing that? Because it could be easy. It could be easy for you to say, "Man, this is just too much. I need to either take a step back or." But you keep going. What is it that keeps that going? Is it just the passion of the game? What is it?
Definitely passion, definitely. For me, it's just like I don't know if I'll ever get this opportunity again, and I want to take full advantage of it. Um, so I'm never going to say no to an opportunity, and I'm always going to do my best. My best might, eventually it's not going to be up to the level of play that you know we have. But for right now, like I'm just trying to compete, and I love the game. I love the competitiveness of it. I love the ability to try to work day in and day out of getting better and how can I beat this batter and how can I beat this team. Um, so I think that's kind of what makes me continue to compete day in and day out. And I love the game. It's gotten me to this point. It's paid my bills. It's let me travel all over the world. It's done a lot for me. So I feel like I also want to give back to that to the sport in general.
No, you're doing a good job on that, and
Thank
it
you.
kind of it really hit me. Like, you pitched, as I mentioned, against the Monarchs at UCF softball complex, which was like a flashback for me because I was there, and I saw your name on the roster, so I knew you were on the roster. But then when I actually saw you in person, I had this like quantum leap moment for that old TV show where like turning back or Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox, because I called your games when JMU played at UCF in back-to-back tournaments in 2014 and 15.
Oh wow.
Uh, and you were part of that. I don't know if, first of all, had you been back to UCF since 2015? Because I was wondering about that. If that was that was your first time back since that year.
I think that was the first time I've been back, actually. Yeah, because
I
I
think
think I
that
had the
makes sense.
kind of same experience as you, where I was like, "Holy cow!" Like the last time I was here was
Yeah.
when we were playing. Well, I think we were playing UCF, Alabama. We were playing a couple big name schools.
Yes.
It was
16. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Because right, it was 14 to 16 you play. You're right. And 16 you actually opened the season against UCF and Alabama. That's right. That was that marquee
yes,
tournament. Yeah.
yes.
Good memory by you. That's right. And it
You
was
have a great memory. I know you've covered a lot of softball over the years, so that's impressive.
so I've been calling UCF softball games since like '07. That's how I got into softball.
Wow.
Full disclosure. And then the podcast came a little bit after that. But one of the bigger moments was your games against UCF, JMU, UCF. Mickey Dean was the head coach. Lauren Laporte was on the staff. But you were part of that when JMU was on the rise, was starting to get on that
Yes.
rise on the
Yes.
program that, people think of the 2021 World Series run, but it really started when you got there in your senior class in
Yes.
particular, which at the time was the best senior class in the history, Jamie. And, bias, I still think it's the best one. I don't know what the record
Thank you.
suggests in that. Uh, but first, how did you end up at JMU?
Oh man. I really wanted to go to UVA. Um, we were UVA fans growing up. It was a great school. I wanted to go somewhere for like a great education. And they were not interested in me. So I was like, okay, I'll go across the mountain. And then we'll come and beat you guys midweek. So, though they reached out and at the time I didn't give them the time of day and decided to go on a visit, and I loved the campus. I loved the people. I loved the energy that was there. It was a very welcoming place. And ideally, I loved Radford, and I loved Coach Dean. Coach Dean was at Radford at the time, and I loved him. I loved his coaching style. But again, I wanted to go more for like education and somewhere I can make a difference at. And I knew at the time JMU would have been the best option. And lucky for me, there was a coaching change that year. Coach Dean came in my freshman year and kind of turned that whole program around within 1 year, truly. So I'm very happy with my decision. I love my experience at JMU. And yeah, that was pretty much the the way it
Did,
went.
I know you're always your goal when you get there is, hey, you want to make a note, change the program and go to high levels. But
Right.
now looking back, do you still kind of believe what you all accomplished really and put the program on the map in the nation there in college softball, where you hosted a regional for the first time? You got to a super regional for the first time. And, I've spoken to Coach Laporte about it since. Like, 2021 doesn't happen without that group, without that run
Right.
there. When you reflect on that? I mean, it was kind of historic.
It definitely was, and I don't think at the time when I'm in it and when I was playing, I didn't realize the growth that we had as a team. And I remember reflecting on one of our last games when we were hosting super regionals. We were playing LSU, and we had sold out. And I remember like one of our first games at JMU, there were barely any fans. And now come to our super regional where we sold out in like 7 seconds or something. Like,
Yeah.
and there were just 5,000 fans, however many there were. There were fans all around, and just taking in that moment of looking around and be like, wow, like we did this as a senior class, as a group, as a staff, like the coaching staff, everyone bought in to get us to this point. And this, now it wasn't our ultimate goal of making the World Series like the 2021 group, but I think that was what we wanted to do. We wanted to leave it better than we found it, and we wanted to continue something for the future generation to be able to achieve that goal. And they did within 4 or 5 years. So It is really really cool to look back and see how far the program had come over our 4 years, because that's not easy to do, and it takes a lot of buy-in from every single one of us, from freshmen all the way up to honestly the athletic directors. So
Yeah, and you were part of a great class of play, senior class. You had great players around you. I think what Erica Fields, catcher.
yes,
I
yes,
remember her. She was always fantastic there. You were the first All American in school history back in 2014. There
I
first of
believe
three in a
so.
row for you. Do you
Yes,
remember
sir.
when you first found out you were an All American?
And I don't actually, and I don't think it really set into like what it meant to be that either. But once I figured it out, once I realized, because I think I was third team, second team, third team, I
Yeah.
can't remember, but at that point, that kind of like lit a fire in me to where I was like, oh, I don't want to be like third best. I want to be first. Like I want to be top of the top. So I knew there was a lot of work to be done from there to get to that point. But um, I mean, still such a great honor, and such a great like again proud moment to know all the work that we put in as a staff and as a team, and with Coach Dean in the bullpens and stuff, that it paid off for us in the long run.
What was it like playing for Coach Dean and even Coach Laporte, who was on the staff and would take over for Coach Dean when he moved on to Auburn years later?
It was phenomenal. I still credit Coach Dean and Coach Laporte with and Coach Herzig too with the success of truly like my career up to this point. Like they did a great job of teaching us the game and helping us learn not just mechanics, but just like understanding the softball IQ aspect of it. And I think sometimes that's missed a lot in the college aspect, where it's more like robotic, and you're told what to do and you're not really told why. Well, we were really big on understanding the why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's helped a lot of us, whether it's me and Odyssey, Megan Good, Kate Gordon, all of us that have kind of moved on and played pro. I think it's helped us continue to compete and continue to get better year in and year out, just because they set a really good foundation in our brains of this is what you're doing, this is why you're doing it. We're not playing catch up at that point once we get into the professional world.
Now, I mentioned you obviously played in Orlando those 3 years. That was kind of significant. 14, I remember you pitched against Mackenzie Otis. It was a one-run game. UCF pulled it out. And then I remember in 15, everybody's expecting you to pitch against Shelby Turnier, which was a lot of people were excited because Shelby had that monster year that year. She was a top 10 player of the year finalist, was first team All America, as it turns out. UCF having this monster year. They're ranked. You're coming in. Instead, there's a young freshman named Megan Good that's
Yeah.
pitching. And it turns out in retrospect, we now know why. But that was that. I don't know if we knew at the time how significant that game was, because you were down 1-0 most of that game.
Right.
You came back, scored too late to win it 2-1. A couple months later, we find out you get to host for the first time. UCF got snubbed from hosting because both JMU and UCF were inside the top 16 RPI. I remember UCF had won the American regular season and tournament. They felt they were going to host. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys felt you were going to host or not. You had won the regular season title, was lost to a good Hofstra team with
Right.
Larissa Anderson as a head coach, which is unbelievable time in softball. But I remember Selection Sunday, your name popped up, and I think some of the UCF people were like, "Whoa!" And then they went to FSU, and now that's kind of how this podcast actually started. It was a year after, because nobody back then was breaking all this stuff down, and I was like, "What's going on?"
Right.
But in retrospect, I think that win might have been the difference between you hosting and UCF hosting. What do you remember about that year and that night, selection night? Did y'all go in and think you were going to host? Were you not sure? And then when you did find out you were going to host for the first time, what was it like?
I don't remember specifically. I do know that we had hopes of it. And there were some rumors going around. We knew early on how important every game was, and that was really, drilled into our brains of how one game early on in the season, how much it's going to affect down the road. So, um, luckily for us, we got the win in that night, and it might have been the turning point of being able to host versus maybe UCF. But I do remember just how excited we were, and almost to the point of overly excited and not really understanding the weight of it. Of what it means to host and how it's not a guaranteed. Like you still have to come in, because I think we lost that regional if I'm
Yes,
correct.
yes.
Yes, yeah. And we weren't focused very well on the matter at hand, and taking care of each individual game. We were kind of, if we win this, we're going to, I think it was maybe Oregon at the time. Um, and so I was like, you guys, like, we need to win this first. We need this. Like, we can't worry about Oregon down the road. And we ended up losing. But I remember how cool it was just for our team and our program of just being able to get to that point too within 2 years of our class
Yes.
being there. We go from going to Tennessee for a regional, going to Kentucky for a regional, and then hosting that next year, which was huge for us. So we knew that we were progressing. We knew we were making it forward, but it did kind of make us a little bit bitter that we lost that regional. So going into that senior year made it a little bit more focused, a little bit more. We're not gonna have our season end like that on our field again.
Yeah, I think it was NC State. Was that NC State that won that? Who was it? Knocked you
It
out?
was. Yes,
Okay.
it was NC State. Yeah, we got knocked out by Fordham. I think Fordham and
Yeah.
NC State were in the
Bridget Orchard head coach. Yeah, I mean that was the
yes,
thing. Florida was the teams are gunning for you, but you learn from
yeah,
that the following year because
yes,
you got a chance to be a higher seed
yeah,
to win the regional, and you hosted the Supers against LSU. Came in with one win away from the World Series. How painful was that? In some ways, historic because you got to the Supers, so
right.
historic year. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, you were one game away from Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and especially having won that first super regional game too, I think we kind of reverted back to that 2015 regional where we're like, okay, we're one win away. Like now we're thinking about OKC instead of winning one more against LSU, and we knew that it was going to be a dogfight anyways. Two really good teams. I think the first game was close. The second, all the games were close. It was tough for us with, I think at the time we had to play the doubleheader. We lost and then had to play pretty much immediately after that. So that was tough for just pitching staff wise and momentum. Um, but it was super cool to be able to make it past that regional, host our supers. We were again making progress, even though we didn't make it to that World Series. It was tough, especially again losing your final game of your career on your home field in front of all your fans. But at the same time, it was kind of cool to be there when it happened and have the support from the community and just have good games. Like they were great. That was great
Yeah.
softball. Like no fan could have asked for more. You couldn't be upset about the end of it. Unless you win the World Series, your season's gonna end on a loss. So, um, no, we were very proud of that.
Well, and you paved the way. You passed the baton to Megan Good. Had a great career. Now everybody will remember 19 when they win the Ann Arbor regional
Yes.
when they got snubbed from hosting. They felt and they took it out of Michigan. Got to
Yeah.
the super regionals, and then obviously 2021. Winning the regional in Knoxville, and
Mhm.
then going to Missouri against Larissa Anderson in Missouri
Right.
down to the super regionals, and you beat Missouri with Odyssey Alexander to get to the World Series, and then they beat Oklahoma in that first game, beat Oklahoma State. As an alum at that point, what was that
Right.
ride like?
Well, honestly, even you just talking about right now is kind of giving me like cold chills. And at the time, I was playing for USSSA. I was
Yeah.
watching the Mizzou regional or super regional in a laundromat, and so I was just like super super excited as an alum, being able to see it live and like kind of made me teary eyed at the time too. Even now, kind of just to see all of your hard works from 4 years prior continue to be built upon, and that's a credit to the staff. It's a credit to the players, to continue that tradition of like a higher excellence, a high expectations. um, and then playing for USSSA, we were actually there in OKC, so I got to see them beat Oklahoma. I got to see them beat Oklahoma State. So just to be at that stage and see it all come to fruition, and then to have success at that level against the top teams, I think it really put a stamp on like, JMU is not the Cinderella story. Like we have come to play. We've been coming to play since, um, you know, 2013, 2014. And this is a long time coming, but we're here to compete, and we're good. We're not just a mid major. I think it changed the name for mid majors too all over.
No doubt.
So which is super cool.
No doubt. I think it's like the questions for years would follow it. Who's this year's JMU? Who's the team's
Exactly.
going to make a run, right? Like we just saw this year with Liberty making
Yeah.
their run to the super regionals, knocking out A&M. I do remember that. I remember that because I covered the Pride for a majority of that time period. So I covered you then even as well. And I remember wondering, and I think I wasn't alone in this, was like, oh, I wonder if Jailyn's there. Is there anybody, like watching? So I'm glad it worked out at the time that you were able to
It's
see
perfect.
that in person.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. A very full circle moment. I still, when people ask me kind of what's the proudest moment of your career, I think I still put that down of just being able to be there. And um, one, we played against Team USA, and a lot of our alumni, a lot of my friends and teammates from JMU prior had come to the game and got to watch me still compete. And then we all went to the game together. So that was just like a very full circle moment of like being back with the team that got us there, with all the players that got us there, and then being able to cheer on those current players against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, where, it was super cool and a very, very proud moment. And
And it kind of also, in a way, closed the on 16. As painful as 16 was, it was almost like, because I remember UCF had a similar situation where they won their first regional, broke through in 22, and a lot of the alums from the 15 team were there in person. They're like, man, this is all. It's almost like it was worth, even though it was, they wished they would have hosted. It was painful, but it was
yes.
worth it because it paved the way 7 years later for that team. Did you feel the same way at the time? Like this is all was worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, to your point, it does kind of close the book on that chapter. And just to be full circle and come back to that and, know that all of that hard work has come off and paid off, and um that they're continuing to do the work and be successful. Yeah, it's a very powerful moment, and it's also really cool to see like the alumni come back and support. And I think that's a testament to the coaching staff and the camaraderie and the the team chemistry that we had on that team to still come back 4, 5, 6 years later and cheer on players that we never even played with, but we're still wanting success for that program.
No doubt about it. A couple more things before I let you go. I've always wanted to ask you this, actually. You were a great two-way player, incredible offensive back.
Thank you.
When did that change? Because I always wonder, where did your back go? You just kind of became a pitcher exclusive, it looked like. Was that your decision? Was that just beyond your control? What was that like?
It was a little bit of both. So in that super regional game in LSU, I had stolen second base and popped my shoulder out. So I
Ooh.
tore my labrum in my right shoulder, which made it a little bit difficult hitting wise. And so I don't think I ever fully recovered from that. I've made some comebacks throughout the years with Pride, a couple in Japan, and they wanted me to hit a little bit here with Rise too, but it's hard for me, I think, now to compete with some of the hitters that are coming straight out of college that have been working. I mean, this is every team's number four batter, and I've kind of settled into the fact that I'm a PO, and I'm okay with that. I think it really has helped me hone in on that craft. Like as hard as it was in college to be successful at both, I think it would be even more difficult now to continue to compete at this level and be great at both. A little bit of it was personal health issues, and then half of it was also just coming to the realization like I really want to focus just on pitching and be really great at that. Um, but I still joke with them, and I'll still pinch run. I'll still anything they need hitting wise, I'll still do. But yeah, in a game, there are times where I think, God, I would love to get in there and try to hit off these Japanese pitchers, or, just give me a bat. But for the most part, that's for them to figure out now, and I'm just gonna work on my craft and work on pitching and
All
focus on
right.
that.
So you don't get enticed when you see like the Courtney Days hitting the ball in the left field
Oh,
there?
No, absolutely. When I see her or McKenna or any of
Yeah.
them, and just to feel the ball off the bat for like a home run and know that it's gone, like I do miss that aspect of it, or turning a single into a double, anything like that. Just because to me, like that's where it kind of lit a fire under me a little bit to be, and it helped me shake off stuff that happened pitching wise. Like I'd have to go straight back into hitting, or from hitting, I'd go straight back to pitching. So it was like you really had to flip the switch, and you couldn't dwell on things very, very long. So I do miss that, and I do miss hitting home runs or doing anything like that. But for the most part, I'm okay with being a pitcher for now, and maybe I'll come back out. Um, but probably
Well,
not.
I think a lot of your opponents won't miss your bat. That's for sure. They're always scared of you. So we were scared of you back then. I'm telling you, that was wild. But what are you gonna
Well,
do?
and I try to convince my teammates back in Japan. I'm like, you guys, I used to hit. I used to be the number 4 hitter. Like, but you think I'm joking, and so everyone
Oh,
still sees me as a PO now, anyways. So
that's
I'm just
funny.
gonna really buy into that for now.
No, that's tremendous. Keep there. My last question for you.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, you're going to continue to play for a while. I don't know when's the next time you'll be able to go to a JMU event as an alum there, but whenever that happens down the road, what do you want people to say about you?
Oh, that's tough. I think with any team or with any program or anywhere that I've been, I want people just to say how good of a teammate I was or how good of a person. Um, yeah, the stats are always going to be there, and or somebody's always going to be able to beat the stats, or you know. But I think me as a person and me as my character says a whole lot more and is going to last a whole lot longer than any sort of stats will. So um, that's what I would want anybody to say ultimately, and especially at JMU too. Just how much drive and how much competitiveness I brought to that program, and um, yeah, like stats don't matter to me. It's just about how I am as a person ultimately.
That's well said. You've been awesome for the
Thank you.
sport. That's Jailyn Ford. Check her out all summer. She'll be with the New York Rise, and we'll still be pitching at a high level. Thanks for doing this. Oh, like I said, I've been a fan from afar for a while, and it was good to get to catch up with you. And good luck the rest of the way. We'll do this again, I'm sure, down the road,
Yes, sir.
hopefully. But thanks for doing this here and coming on in the circle on D1 softball.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we can get back on here sometime soon.